My grandfather used to say all the time that I was going to be a doctor. And he was a farmer growing up, but he had PhDs in education, and he used to say that you're going to be a doctor. And I used to say, no, I just want to be a farmer and a rancher like you. And he goes, no, he goes, farmers and ranchers need two jobs, a farm and ranch and one to support it. So I grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania, and at an early age got called kind of to wanting to play the violin or the fiddle, depending on who you ask. And I begged for the first 2 years until my parents kind of wanted to shut me up, and found a teacher. And then when they surprised me with my first violin, it was actually my grandfather's violin. So I started playing the violin around the age of 9, and the old expression, kind of like a duck to water, it just kind of went with it. And I played in a lot of orchestras and symphonies and ballets and operas and national anthems before wrestling matches in high school and football. I used to say it got me out of Saturday morning football practices. I used to have to go to orchestra instead of going to football practices on Saturday morning. I would say I have one of the greatest dads that the world could ever have. He worked for an electric company, and I never met a man who loved his job more. His kids forced him to retire. That would be a good way. Always supported us. He's not the man who you would expect to see in a concert hall at an orchestra or that. He was that man in the back who would sit in his blue jeans and camo coat with his hat over his head to listen to the music, because he grew up in a time where after Sunday church, his dad, Grandpap, would play all the classical music on the record player. So he knew all the music that I was playing, but he listened to them kind of when it came to cartoons, right? Bugs Bunny, The Barber of Seville, Fighting with Elmer Fudd. So he knew all the music that I used to play, but he knew it from records and cartoons, Sunday morning cartoons. You know, in the beginning I was following Pap's orders, and then because he used to say that I was good at butchering beef, and I knew my way around a knife, so I was going to be a surgeon. And I actually shadowed a couple surgeons back home in Pennsylvania, one being Dr. Mark Nartatis. Actually, my wife and kids were home last week visiting my parents, and my oldest daughter fell and broke her arm, and I made a phone call to Dr. Mark, and he took care of her and put her in a cast. He was a man who let me shadow him kind of throughout high school and college to kind of see if, wet my toes, if you will, in the medicine field, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the anatomy aspect of it. The instant gratification as a surgeon. I always say that I'm a kid at heart. You come to me and you have a bad appendix, I can cut it out, and it's instant gratification. I took it out, you're good, you can go home that night. So I came out here about 10 years ago hunting pheasants on the High Line. And the first time I came out here, I was I had anxiety about how wide open it was in eastern Montana because I grew up in Pennsylvania where there's trees everywhere. And when I left to go back to Michigan to residency, all I wanted to do was come back. I was drawn to it. I don't know why, there's something inside me. I remember sitting in residency and we had a hospital recruiter talking to us about, staying in the Metro Detroit area or staying within Michigan and wanting to stay in the state, to help practice there. And I was the man who raised my hand and said, what if you want to go as far away as possible, to Montana? And she was pivotal in finding me a job out here and an opportunity to come practice medicine. And as they say, the rest is history. For me, I always wanted to be a surgeon. I always wanted to be a general surgeon when I decided to go into it. An old surgeon told me that you should be scared before every surgery that you perform, no matter if you're first year out or a year from retirement, because that makes you honest. It makes you look up the surgery the night before and read about it. You may have done it 1,000 times, but just because you've done it 1,000 times, this next time might not be the exact same way. Residency is the toughest 5 years of your life. It really is. There's so many times where you want to quit, you want to give up. It's grueling. I don't know how else to explain it. They put a cap on where we're only allowed to work 100 hours a week. That was the cap. And on paper, that's what we did. But there were days where you'd wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you'd be making rounds at 4:30. You'd pre-round on your patients, write your notes. 5 o'clock, you'd start, sign out, and then you do sign out as a formal group at 6:30, and surgery started at 7. You operated in between operations. You went and rounded with your attendings, and then you finished your surgeries. It'd be 5 o'clock, in the afternoon. You'd sign out to the evening crew. You'd make night rounds, make sure all your notes were done. And you did that nonstop. We didn't get vacations. It just is what it is. And then you do, 24 or 48 hours call. And now there's more regulations for the medical, board and making sure residents are trained and they're not sleep deprived and that. But I remember wondering, why am I doing this? When you graduate, it's because you train yourself to operate almost from muscle memory to the point where it's autopilot. You just know what to do. When it happens, you just do it. You don't think about it, it's just instinctive. And that's what surgical residency does to you. It trains you from the muscle memory aspect of it. An old surgeon once told me, he goes, everyone else in the room can lose it. You can't. Because you're the last step. You have to hold it together. And there are times where internally, man, I'm screaming for help. But you just do it. You just have to understand it. And you can break down. That's what I always say. My favorite ride home from the hospital is from the hospital to the Kinsey Bridge, because that gave me enough time to decompress before I walked into my wife.
Nestled in Big Country sits a 35,000 square foot majestic building, home to the well-known Western Ranch Supply in Billings, Montana. Western Ranch offers everything needed to be a modern rancher, from animal health, fencing, livestock equipment, to tack and saddles. We also added a large clothing selection for men, women, and children, and carry pet supplies, automotive, and hardware. We're a one-stop shop providing a unique shopping experience. Visit us today at Western Ranch Supply or shop online at westernranchsupply.com.
Montana. We are lucky to call it home. Discovery and adventures are around every corner of our state. The vibe is different here. When looking for a local, homegrown Montana bank, look no further. Stockman Bank, Montana's brand of banking.
Hey everybody, Joe Beaver here. We're promoting Hart Trailers. We're talking about the product. Let's just get into it. From the first weld to the last inspection, we as Hart have done all we can do to guarantee you've got the best trailer your money can buy. They pull good. I don't have any trouble with them. They are user friendly. I want you to know that if you have a doubt one, don't buy it because there's somebody else that's gonna buy it right behind you.
Big Boy Toys.
I think you have to be a person first before you're a doctor, right? You know, we always ask the same questions, right? Tell me about your past medical history, your past surgical history, your family history. Then I always ask, do you smoke? And depending on what part of the country I'm working in, you know, you can see some people get upset about that. And I usually say, hey, I'm not here to judge, I chew, right? Like, I know it's terrible for me, right? But I chew, right? Or you ask a person, do they drink? Do they smoke? You know, do you do any recreationals, allergies and medications? It's frustrating when you know it's going to fail, but you have to do it anyways, right? I've had patients, I used to joke all the time, I never fixed hernias in ranchers until it was winter, right? Because shipping season's done. And then I know they're just feeding, right? And it's not calving season yet. And you need to give me those 4 to 6 weeks of no heavy lifting or twisting or moving around, right? So I would never fix hernias in the summer. I'd never fix them in the fall because I knew they wouldn't listen to me, right? So you have to judge your patients and judge your crowd and kind of use it to your advantage in the sense that you're like, listen, man, I know you're not going to give me 6 weeks of no heavy lifting, nothing heavier than a gallon of milk. I know that, realistically, right? We're in eastern Montana. You got calves that ship in October. If it's not strangulated, meaning it's not an emergent surgery, we can wait till after you ship and you're feeding. Because now I know you're just in a bale bed and you're just rolling out bales in the pasture. Like, but you know, it's frustrating when. It's frustrating when you know it's going to fail, but you have to do it anyways. Surgeons carry around a graveyard of patients. We wish we could save the ones we wonder if we could have done more. You have to rely on your support system. Family members. It doesn't make it easier. It really doesn't. It doesn't make it easy to lose a 22-year-old kid 3 days before Christmas. You know, it doesn't. It doesn't make it easier telling that mom or dad or their sister that there wasn't anything we could do. But you try to learn from it. That's the biggest thing. There's a lot of learning aspects in it. Self-reflection, where you take some time and look over the case and say, was there something I missed? You know, or was there something I could have done differently? In most instances, thank goodness, most instances, there isn't. There's nothing you could do. For instance, you know, the individual who drank who had, you know, gastric bleeds. Most instances, it's man, we did everything by the textbook, you know. But again, you have to realize every patient that you have is going to die eventually. Whether it's, you know, self-induced, you know, by drinking, or if it's, you know, a car accident or something like that, you can't win them all. You try to have a good batting average, but the emotional aspect of it takes its toll. I like to think I'm a tough guy, but no, I mean, I do. I carry a graveyard of patients in my mind, every day. But you learn from them, and you try not to make those same mistakes or decisions again in the future. It's always a learning experience. You always carry that with you, and keep this in mind just in case, this were to happen. I used to say all the time, no one's excited to see a surgeon. No one wants to see me. I have a terrible job. I'm the one who has to, tell family members that their loved one's not going to make it, or I'm the one who has to have a conversation with you that you just got diagnosed with colon cancer. Now, what are our options? No one wants to see a surgeon. Most people, I think, appreciate about me is my candid kind of personality. I don't have time to sugarcoat it, neither do you. Here are our options, here's what we got. We can hold hands and we can pray, we can have this discussion, but ultimately, I always say that the only opinion in the room that matters is yours, right? My job as a surgeon isn't to make decisions, it's to educate you, right, on your options, what you want to do. If you want, like even with your acute appendicitis nowadays, right? I always say the same thing to my patients. Option number 1, you can tell me to pound sand and do nothing. Option number 2, we can give you some antibiotics, keep you in the hospital, see if it gets better. It might not. Option 3, we can take it out and see and go from there, And that's my goal is I don't tell patients what to do. I just educate you about your options, and then we go from there. You're a surgeon, it's a different hat, if you will, no pun intended, but it's a different hat. And like I said, you're in charge. It's someone's life. I always say that before every case in the OR, we do a timeout. And the last thing I say before incision, I usually say, listen, I was like, if at any point in time during this case you feel uncomfortable, you feel unsafe, you see something I don't see, you see bleeding that's happening that I don't see, please speak up. Everyone in this OR has a voice and an opinion. The only person that matters is on the table. The thing that surprised me the most, or that I've learned in my short tenure as a surgeon, would be the amazing will to survive and the ability for the body to heal itself. Blows my mind every time. It truly does. I mean, there are some times where I'm trying to make the best out of a bad situation. I mean, it's going terrible. And the next day, it's like nothing ever happened. They're great. It's truly amazing to me what the human body can do to survive and the ability of it to heal on its own.
My name is Amberly Snyder. I am a barrel racer and motivational speaker. Hart put together a trailer that is extremely accessible to me, that makes it possible for me to have more independence with my horses. I mean, truly something that is life-changing for me. If I'm gonna load my horse in a trailer, if I'm gonna take my horse somewhere, if I'm gonna put my best friend in a situation, they deserve the best. That's why I pull a Hart trailer.
Time sure flies when you're having fun. Our lives are made up of working through the day-to-day, supporting the ones we love, and enjoying those special moments that make it all worthwhile. As Montanans, we are resilient, resourceful, and all about preserving our way of life that we are proud to say defines us. At Stockman Bank, our sole focus is serving the people of Montana. We are Montana's brand of banking. We are Stockman Bank.
You know what sounds like fun? Your oasis for fun at the new and improved Four Bears Casino and Lodge. Now that sounds like fun.
When I was growing up, it was an escape from sports, right? I talked about, not having to go to football practice Saturday morning. But it was always an outlet. It was a way to express yourself non-verbally. I toured with a group of violinists in northern Italy and Switzerland playing at some different locations. Vivaldi's church in Venice. Spent that day, my birthday, in front of Vivaldi's church. And we were sightseeing at the time, and there was a street performer, and his wife was playing the hammered dulcimer, and he was playing the accordion. And he didn't speak a lick of English. None of us spoke a lick of Italian, but he was playing a song that we knew, and we just opened our cases and kind of motioned to play, and he just shook his head. And I'm still waiting for the tips from that day that we got that man, because there was 12 or 15 of us playing along with him in the streets. And that was the first time I realized that music is the international language, right? I don't need to be able to communicate with you, using English or Spanish or French or Italian or any other language, but music kind of creates those bridges across cultures, and it really was an outlet for me and my emotions, and still is. I mean, it still is, yeah. I met my wife at work one day. I begged her to go on a date with me for 6 months till she foolishly decided yes. She worked in the OR, yep. And I remember the first day I met her. She was standing at the desk, and I walked up, and I was like, oh, yeah. I don't think she said that about me, but in my mind, that's what I was thinking. Shortly thereafter, we ended up getting married and having our first. When I'm on daddy daycare, I have my fiddles hanging on the wall, and they want to hear daddy play, and I'll pull it out. They love the national anthem because they've heard me play it at rodeos, and they love to stand and salute to it and play to it. And then they always want a fun song, either Happy Birthday was always a popular one in the house, or Old MacDonald, so I'll play some sing-along songs for them. I remember the first time I played at the Buck and Horse. It went off flawlessly, and it was beautiful, and we were walking back, and my buddy turned to me, who was holding the microphone. He goes, "That was amazing, man." And I said, "Could you see my knees shaking?" And he just kind of giggled. And then the next year, he maybe sit a horse and play it. So at least my knees didn't knock as bad on the horse. I always get excited when they sing it back. That's my favorite. That's when Red Lodge does it very well because their stadium's set up. And it's our national anthem, especially in today's world. To hear 8 or 10,000 people sing our song, on the 4th of July of everything. And to sing it back to you as you're playing. Now it does come with some difficulties because sometimes they like to drag it out a little longer than you do, and you're trying to accompany. Now you find yourself not playing it, but accompanying the crowd. So you have to kind of have some leeway in that, but man, when they sing it back to you, it's something special.